best in radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz, and hey, we just had another blood moon this morning, and you know what that means. It's got to have some effect. It's part of the cycles, lunar cycle, and we know that the moon controls the tides, and we know that the planets and the stars definitely have more of an effect than they're given credit for. So isn't it a great time to talk to Arch Crawford and find out exactly what's going on? Arch, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Hey, great to talk to you. So, well, we know a lot's going on. Europe meltdown, dollar going up, and so much happening. So figured time to have you back on. So what is going on here? We have this blood moon. We've got all sorts of chaos going on in the world. And what's that going to do here?
Well, what we said in the letter was that the 7th, 8th, and 9th are particularly energetic, particularly actually the 7th. We had the Sun opposite Uranus, Mercury semi-square Mars, both, and that was the 250-some point down day. Then we had maximum energy day today, lunar eclipse early, Venus squares Pluto midday, Mars trines Jupiter after the close, but then later Jupiter is contra-parallel Saturn, which is an opposition in north-south orientation, declination, so that it's a highly energetic day. And we started off pretty much to the downside, and just all of a sudden, an hour ago, we recovered just about all of the losses. And I think the S&Ps are up about 3.25 now. So I feel like there is an attempt to tightly control the market, and I don't know what day it will actually lose control, or either the powers that be want to take it down. I don't know which that will be, and I'd say today is as good a chance as any with the planetary alignments and the blood moon. It's a lunar eclipse, and what the things that affect the Earth the most are the tidal forces. And, of course, we know the moon affects the tides in the water, but they also affect the tides in the air, and much more so, and they also affect the tides in the ground, in the earth. And often they touch off earthquakes around these high gravitational events, like an eclipse. So we're watching out for that, and as well as I said, it also causes changes in the air, and there's a tide in the air. And if we discovered years ago, John Nelson, who worked for RCA Corporation, and he learned to predict the sunspots by the planetary alignments around the sun. And he and I used to talk, and we found that the greatest effects on the Earth were at these high gravitational tidal forces, and in particular, if there were sunspots at that same time, the sunspots would be charging the upper atmosphere, and the tidal force would bring it down much, much closer than normal to the Earth, and that's really what drives people nuts. It's the charge in the upper atmosphere caused by the sunspots being brought down very lower than normal. And you get your biggest emotional effects, and then the biggest gravitational effects with earthquakes and high tides and whatnot.
Right. So we're looking at people being more unstable, more on edge, more prone to conflict from this.
All of the above, yes. And the blood moons, someone else came up with this. I don't remember who checked it back for generations, but it's full moons that actually around the Jewish holidays, and that's particularly in April and in October that these would take place. But the blood moons on the Jewish holidays have been such a rare event, and we have four that are a tetrad, or a four grouping of these lunar eclipses around these dates. This year, April and October. Next year, April, and one in September, late September, I think it is. And the person who wrote this up said that there were major changes in Jewish history, including the establishment of Israel and other things, and also I think one of the destructions of Israel. So they are particularly watching it more closely than we are. I'm just watching the market. That's my business. So we had new highs here recently with considerable divergences developing, and some people think we could have a 5 or 6% pullback. I think it could be much more serious than that, considering the time of the year that October is typically your worst month. And we have here the two eclipses. There's another on the 23rd, which is a solar eclipse. And Mercury is retrograde, which is a further inhibiting factor to normal operations. And that went retrograde on October 4th and stays retrograde, I think, until the 27th. Mm-hmm. Anyway, late in the month. So I found that the Mercury retrograde during the Mars-Uranus crash cycles also have a tendency to an enhanced probability that a crash might occur. There's no certainty in this business, but we do watch the probabilities, and they do work out often enough to make a living at it.
Yeah, but certainly instability is definitely the byword, huh?
Yes, I'd say so. That, and a lot of masses of people are feeling that instability, and we get rioting in Hong Kong, and I mean all of the things that are going on in the world right now seem to be a little more higher activated than in usual times, certainly.
Yeah, you think Hong
a lot
Kong,
of tension been building up in between Russia and the West, and all kinds of things.
And Hong Kong, seem to have been doing nothing but going straight up, right? Their economy, their standard of living, but like most things, you look underneath the surface, and there's a different story there, and and that story is coming out.
Well, the Pluto square Uranus is a long-term thing that happens over several years, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And astrologers, I'm not a classical astrologer, but I do know some of it. But anyway, they were saying that when Pluto goes into Capricorn, then governments will become more intrusive in the lives of the people. And that happened like 4 years ago. And when Uranus goes into Aries and begins to square the Pluto, there will be revolutions around the world against their governments. And that has been going on now for 2 years, I think it is. And we get, I think, 2 more years of these Uranus-Pluto squares. I think the next one is in November.
Really?
Yeah, so that's revolution and governments falling. And we wrote at the fall equinox, Pluto had a station where it appears to stop moving in the sky and turns in the opposite direction. So Pluto went direct within 2 hours of the actual fall equinox, and that's supposed to set the tone for the next 3 months. And I said about it that governments will fall.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what will be the first government to fall. Any idea there?
Well, Crimea has already changed governments a little while ago, and that could change again. Iraq has just changed, I think, in the last couple of weeks. And I don't know if there will be changes, major changes in major countries. And we're just looking forward and watching to see what develops.
Sure.
And there'll be many of them, and I don't know whose they'll be. There's another science in the astrological community where they watch mundane events and they look at the birth charts of the nations, and they can tell you more accurately than I can which countries might become involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's definitely changes happening. There are definitely changes happening. I mean, there's no question about that.
More than usual by a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We know that it's big changes, and while the timing might not be perfect, the accuracy of the prediction certainly is. And up next, what it means for gold, what it means for your portfolio, what it means for you on the Financial Survival Network.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
People have been using gold and silver to protect their wealth for thousands of years. Shouldn't you? That's why I go to Cloud Hard Assets. Tom Cloud has been in the business for 38 years. Call him now at 800-247-2812. Tom's service is outstanding, and you can buy with complete confidence. Order today, and you'll have your metal in your hands in 10 days or less. Tom takes the guesswork out of what to buy, and you'll buy at the lowest possible prices. And as a special to FSN listeners, you'll get free shipping and insurance. So call Tom today at 800-247-2812. That's 800-247-2812, or find him on the web at cloudhardassets.com and tell him Kerry sent you.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Hey, in case you just joined us, we're talking with Arch Crawford, Crawford Perspectives. Hey, you know him well. You've been seeing his astrological-based financial predictions for years. We've been carrying him here on the Financial Survival Network, interviewing him for ages. And Arch, so gold, been forming this triple bottom. It's been in the pits for 3 years or more now. And what are we looking at for gold here now?
Oh, just one more note on governments. Sure. It looks correct now that at least the Republicans here will take the Senate. So that's the change that might occur here. I hope it's not any worse than that. Yeah. But we'll see those things coming up, and I'll have the chart of gold up in a few seconds here. The gold has been for a year making a large triangle pattern with lower highs and higher lows, and it went out into the end, and then it broke down from the pattern, which counts down to about 1100, and it's 1206 now on the current contract. Right. So I'm hoping for it to do better than that, but that is the technical count right this minute. And 1100 would be below the two critical previous lows at 1179.40 and 1181.40, which would possibly make the count further down faster. So what I want to see is it has to go back up above about 1350 to give another strong indication to the positive side. And I hope we get that before we get 1100 or worse. But I've been staying away from it because technically it has not made a higher high in in quite some time, more than a year and a half or 2 years.
Yep.
We haven't had a higher high, and we got to have a higher high to have an uptrend.
Sure.
So I'm disappointed in that. I have a little bit of gold, and I would like to buy more when I get a signal that it is turning back to the upside, which I do not have yet.
So is it just manipulation? Are we dealing with cycles, or what are we dealing with?
Well, one of the yearly cycle is that we should have started up in August already, and it has not done so. So that's not a good sign on the short-term cycles. We've also had a breakdown. I'm looking at the chart of the HUI, which is the unhedged gold company stock, and that appears to be it broke down out of a triangle as well at about the same time, and it was getting down to a trend line that I was hoping might contain it, but it's now broken that, and that's not a good sign. However, on both the gold and the HUI gold stock, the MACD indicator of momentum has become very, very slow. So the downside momentum has stabilized and is attempting to turn up. And that's the only positive I see in the picture right now. If we can get up the price enough to turn the MACD positive, it's mildly positive now in that it's not getting worse and has gone back above zero in the difference between the two moving averages. So that's a minor positive, and that can happen more than once in a long-term trend. So it's not a very strong indication yet, but I would like to see first the minor positive, which we have, and then crossing above the zero level, which would be a greater positive, and then have some of these other technical things occur that, like the price going above the moving averages, which would be, if it gets 1,300, it'll be back above both the 50-day and the 200-day moving average. So that would be the first real strong positive would be getting back above the 50-day moving average, and then it'll get above the 200-day moving average, and then getting above where the triangle pattern declining trend line is, and then getting back above previous highs at 1,350 and 1,400. So that's the order of things that I would like to see happen in the gold, and we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, and at some point, is it going to happen here, or are we just we're just hoping against hope, or Well,
we're hoping as long as the technicals are not confirming an uptrend. But another thing that is about the instability that's going on here is that I am very concerned and a little fearful that one morning we'll wake up and gold will be through the roof and dollar will be through the floor, and our way of life will change dramatically and not for the better.
Yeah.
But I would certainly keep an insurance position in the metals.
Yeah, well, that makes sense for sure. It is insurance. That's what we always say here.
And I would use insurance positions, whatever you're familiar with, to hedge any long portfolio of stocks that you might have.
Yeah.
If you know what to do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's always an insurance policy. That's what we've always said here on this show is, insurance, and that's what you need to be thinking of it as, because otherwise, then you need to really be a professional, guy in the commodity sector, and it's a whole nother thing. So
right. I don't want to tell people to do things that they don't already, that are not already familiar with.
Sure. For sure. Yep. Definitely. So, and stock market, at some point, we're going to see it top out here, huh? Think it's topped, or?
I believe it has topped. The Bradley model, which is an entirely astronomic-related model, peaked out in the middle of July, and we had our left shoulder peak at that time. And then we have now a right shoulder peak in the Bradley model when we got the exact top in the price levels in the major indices.
Right.
So that's working out. Now, it goes sideways a bit in here and actually shows a collapse in November and December, which is unusual. I mean, it's easy to take the market down in October and sometimes in November. But December is very difficult to make the market go down because of the annual things that occur at that time that operate against the down market.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say the best bet for the declining market would be October and November, and possibly the first week of December if necessary. But we want to see the market drop, a capitulation phase where people are frightened, and build up some of the technical things we look at to extremes. It doesn't have to be the extremes that we saw in 08. That was really an extraordinary negative. But the way things are developing, it could be actually worse. I'm not predicting that as a definite, but it's definitely a possibility.
Sure. Yeah.
So anyway, I think we've topped, and we've broken a couple of important levels. We've broken the 50-day moving averages in the major indices, and we've broken a long-term uptrend line in the NASDAQ. But that's the only one that's broken that line. The Dow Jones closed exactly on that line, looks like yesterday, on the 200-day moving average and the long-term rising trend line. The S&P did not get down to those levels just yet, but one hard day down would do that as well. And the NASDAQ is on another very minor trend line that has held it last week and so far this week. But if that last Thursday's close has been broken by a closes this week, but the low from last Thursday has not yet been breached. And that's what I would look for as the next sign of that going down. Now, it did break in the Dow Jones, but not the NASDAQ or the S&P. So we need further confirmation of those breaks in the S&P and NASDAQ for the market to go down in size. If just the Dow Jones breaks it and the other two hold, I would bet on at least a short-term rally.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Well, we're going to find out soon enough. So, Arch, just tell us how we subscribe to your newsletter, Crawford Perspectives.
Well, we have a website, which is crawfordperspectives.com. It may be easier just to Google my name, and that's the first thing that comes up. Anyway, just Google Arch Crawford.
All right.
And you can call the office or sign up online or fax it in, or we'll take it any way you want. If you want to bring over gold coins, we'll take that.
Hey, especially gold coins, give you a good deal on that. And of course, we've got the link on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. It's in the show notes. Just go look there, click it, and you'll get right over to Arch's site. And Arch, always a pleasure. Thanks so much, and we will talk with you again soon.
Very good. Thank you.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.